सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Very good. Good evening. Good morning. Welcome back. So we are continuing our session on Katha Upanishad. So let me quick recap where we were, because we covered an important topic. We were on chapter 1, the final Valli, chapter 1, Valli 3. If you remember, we have 2 chapters in Katha Upanishad, and each chapter has 3 sections known as Vallis. So last week, we discussed the fact that the third Valli of the first chapter has 3 topics. In fact, there are 17 mantras. And probably the most important topic of that Valli is Ratha Kalpana. So we spend a lot of time. In fact, what we did was we double-clicked on that particular topic, and we spent the whole session last week discussing about Ratha Kalpana. It's probably one of the most important topic of this Upanishad, very well known. We went verse by verse. In this particular example, our life is considered like a journey, and that destination, the ideal destination of that journey is our supreme state, knowing ourselves, knowing God, or moksha, whatever you call. And Ishvara has given us all the resources successfully to undertake this journey. Like, that's exactly what the idea of this Ratha Kalpana. So we were told that in order for you to undertake that journey, you need a vehicle or a chariot. Ancient time, it was chariot. If you take it in the modern example, it could be a car. For the chariot, the horses, there are 5 horses. 5 horses are the sense organs of our body. And the body is the chariot. And our mind is compared to the reins of the chariot. And the intellect is considered as the driver of the chariot. And the traveler of the chariot is the jiva. So the individual self, which is conditioned by the body, mind, and intellect, that self who has not yet realized his identity is the traveler. So the whole life is considered as a journey undertaken using the equipments or the resources given by Ishvara to its final destination, to the Paramatma. So the point is, if the horses go in different direction, what happens? The journey will not reach the final destination. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is, even if the horses are properly driving the chariot, if the reins are not, meaning not working, that is also a problem. The third problem is, if the charioteer is not using the reins properly, the chariot will not reach to the correct destination. So if the chariot itself has some problem, right? If the chariot is broken, then also it will not reach the destination. So if it is a modern example, a car, the tires of the car, the steering wheel, and the driver. Imagine if the tires are going in different direction, it is not obeying the steering wheel. That is a problem. You will get into an accident. You will not reach the right destination. And if the steering wheel is not working, you will not reach the right destination. If the person who is driving the car or the driver do not have control over the steering wheel, still you will not reach the correct destination, right? So a perfect alignment is needed between the horses, the reins, the chariot and the driver. When that happens, you can see that the chariot will take the path of Shreyas instead of Preyas, because Shreyas is the path of good, whereas the Preyas is the path of pleasant. What the Upanishad is saying is that whenever there is a conflict between your likes and dislikes and what is good or what is right, always try to steer your chariot towards the path of good more than the path of pleasant. So Shreyas over Preyas, and then such a person will reach the final destination. This is what we saw in the previous class. Such a beautiful topic, such a beautiful way of narration. And this is the essence of all the yogas. So that's what we have seen. Any questions on this topic? Because this is such an important topic. If you want any questions, we can take a question right now. Otherwise, we can go to the next two topics and cover the chapter 1 of the Katha Upanishads. Okay, so if there is no questions, let's continue to the next topic. So the other two topics mentioned in this particular Valli is Atma Surupam and Jnana Sadhanam. So let's quickly talk about the Atma Surupam. Atma Surupam means what is the nature of the Atma? What is the nature of yourself? I think that I am the body. I think that I am the mind. I think that I am the intellect. But we know the Upanishad clearly tells that I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am the Atma, the consciousness. So in this particular portion of the Upanishad, Yamadharma gives a few pointers to contemplate upon on the real nature of the Atma. So the first Lakshana or the Surupa of the Atma is given as Panchakosha Vilakshana Atma. Panchakosha Vilakshana Atma. So it means different from the 5 koshas. So if you attended our introduction to Vedanta session, we discussed a lot of method or teaching methodology used by Vedanta to reveal the nature of the Atma. To understand this idea, right, you just need to look at the evolution of the Advaita Vedanta. So if you really think about Advaita Vedanta, you could see mainly 3 types of evolution. When exactly the Advaita Vedanta came to this world? We say that it is never came, the God has given, but at certain point of time, certainly it was recorded. It was discovered by the ancient sages of India, and they put that into Vedas, right? In the form of Samhita, Aranyaka, Brahmana, and Upanishads. Mainly the knowledge of the Atma was discovered by the sages of ancient India, and they documented or they put that into the Upanishads. But you might have already seen the Upanishad is their viewpoints. It's not a very systematic way of teaching, right? So if you look at the Kena Upanishad, it reveals a particular portion of the Atma. If you take Katha Upanishad, it will take another portion of the Atma. And if you take Mundaka Upanishad, it approaches the Atma in a different thing. So the discovery of each rishis, because they were geniuses, spiritual geniuses. And whatever they discovered, they documented in the Upanishad. But imagine, let's say that Einstein discovered, or discovered the law of theory of relativity, general theory of relativity, and the special theory of relativity. Let's say that if Einstein just documented that for himself, if he just documented for himself, after some time, how you and I can understand that? It's very difficult for an ordinary person to understand that. So the original teachings of the Advaita Vedanta, which is mainly the Upanishads, it is not easy. A person who is not elevated into the stature of a rishi or a sage, he or she finds it very difficult to understand this vision of the Advaita Vedanta, which is beyond the vision of a common person. This is the problem. That is why when we take an Upanishad book, and if you try to read that by word translation, you get utterly confused. So the first phase of the Advaita Vedanta, it got documented, but it was very difficult to understand. That is where the second stage of evolution of the Advaita Vedanta played a big role. In the second stage of the Advaita Vedanta, you can see great teachers came into being. Like teachers like Gaudapada, teachers like Shankaracharya, teachers like Govinda Vallabhapada, or teachers like Ramanuja, or teachers like Madhava, teachers like Jnaneshwara, teachers like the Kashmiri Shaivism. Various masters came into our history, and they started creating teaching methodology. So since we are following Advaita Vedanta, the greatest teacher in this tradition, not the greatest rishi, right? The greatest teacher in this tradition is Shankaracharya. The greatest contribution of Shankaracharya into Advaita Vedanta is, did Shankara created the Advaita Vedanta? Absolutely not. It was there much before him. And the contribution of Shankaracharya is he created a beautiful teaching methodology, systematic way of teaching. How? He wrote commentaries. He introduced this, meaning from the Upanishads only. He didn't create anything new, but he systematically organized it. He created beautiful teaching methodologies and organized it into beautiful teaching. And that is the second phase of the Advaita Vedanta. And the final phase of the Advaita Vedanta, or the third phase, not final, the third phase of the Advaita Vedanta is the modern teachers, like teachers like Vivekananda, Paramahamsa Yogananda, Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Dayananda. All those teachers took the teaching, these traditional teaching, which was there only for the monks, they took that into the public. They translated that into English. They created all the teaching series. So that's the third phase of the evolution. But what I was trying to convey here is that in the second phase, meaning one of the teaching methodology introduced by Shankaracharya is called Panchakosha. Panchakosha means our body has 5 different layers. Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. So why these 5 layers were introduced? Just to show different aspects of our personality, and also just to show that Atma is none of them. Annamaya Kosha means physical, that which is the modification of Annam. Mayam means modification here in this particular context. Anna means food, food modified. So every tangible organs in your body, everything you can touch and feel, that comes under the category of Annamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha is the little bit more subtle. It is the energy layer. It is not just the energy, it is much more than that. It is the life force. It is that layer of your personality. Even the body is there, without the life force, it will not function. So that is Pranamaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha is your mind. Vijnanamaya Kosha is your intellect. Anandamaya Kosha is what? Which is beyond mind and intellect, what happens? There is that when everything is quiet, you feel happy. That is Anandamaya. And what the Upanishad is saying that Atma is none of them. Pancha Kosha Vilakshana Atma. Atma is not the physical body. Atma is not the subtle body. Atma is not the mind. Atma is not the intellect. Atma is not even the Ananda you experience. It's much beyond that. Atma is much beyond that. It is the consciousness in you is Atma. One way of explaining what is Atma is just by explaining what is not Atma. So here the Yamadharma explains what is not Atma. He said, Pancha Kosha Vilakshana Atma. So that is the next one. So this is the, and second point he tells is, Atma is Sukshma. It is subtle. And it is very subtle and it is very difficult to know, because Atma cannot be an object of your knowledge, because here the seeker and the sought is the same, right? If you seek the self, it is a denial of the self. A simple example is, you cannot see Atma directly, because the seer is the Atma. That is the difficulty. So imagine your eyes want to see, meaning which instrument in your body allows you to see the entire cosmos? It is my eyes, no doubt about it. But let's say that if the eye want to see itself, it cannot. Obviously, you have to use a mirror or you have to use a photo. That is not direct means of seeing it. Indirect way of seeing it. If the eye want to see itself, it is impossible. You cannot see, the eye cannot see itself. It can make you see everything else in the world, but it fails to see itself. So that is why? Because you cannot see yourself. Because the sought is the seeker. Seeker and the sought are the same. So everything else you experience because of Atma, right? Because remember we talked about the Drigdrishya Viveka. Let's say that you're seeing the picture of a human being. What happens? The eyes will capture the picture. It will go to the mind. It will be represented in the mind as an activity. And what is represented in the mind is seen by the consciousness. So when I see a person, I'm not seeing that person directly. I am seeing the image captured by my mind, which is interpreted as a vritti in my mind. So I am only seeing that. So more than physically what exists, what is the interpretation of my mind on what is captured by the sense organs is what is I'm seeing always. Think it is not difficult, right? It is very easy to understand. What exactly, otherwise, let's see, when you see your child, you feel love, right? And when you see somebody, some person you don't like, anger comes to your mind. Why? Because it is the image interpreted by your mind is what you're seeing. Even the voice or the sound, a beautiful music, the ear will capture it. It will convert it into its electrical signals, sent to your brain, and that is represented in your mind. And what you are hearing is not what is playing outside directly. What is the interpretation of that is playing outside by the mind is what I'm seeing. So everything shown in the movie theater of my mind is what I am directly seeing. And the seer is the consciousness. So the Yamadharma tells, first of all, Atma is Panchakosha Vilakshana. It is neither mind, intellect, body. Second thing is that it is the most subtle thing is Atma. It is subtler than the physical body. It is subtler than the mind. It is subtler than the intellect. It is subtler than everything. So the Atma is the subtlest. That is the second one. And it is very difficult to know Atma directly because the seer and the seen are the same. The third point is Atma Nirgunaha. It is free from all attributes. The attributes belonging to, meaning any attribute, right? You say that, okay, I'm 5 feet 8 inches. No, that is not the Atma. 5 feet 8, your body is 5 feet 8 inches. Okay. Means I can say that I'm tan color. Okay, that is not Atma. Atma doesn't have a color. When you say tan, you are referring to your body, right? Color of the body. Then you say that I'm happy, right? Is it your physical body is not feeling, but it is a characteristics of your mind, and Atma is different from mind, right? Then you say that I know, I know everything. No, that knowledge is an attribute of your intellect, not Atma. So Atma is Nirgunaha. Atma is free from all the attributes of the universe. This is what Atma. Free from all attributes, good and evil. So that is why the Upanishad tell Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam. It doesn't have a sound. You cannot touch it. Arupam, it doesn't have a form. There is absolutely no form for Atma. There is no other attributes for Atma, and you cannot touch Atma. The Atma is all pervading, right? It is not limited by the size of your body, right? So that we talked earlier. The scope of the Atma is not limited by the size of my body, right? It is all pervading. So when you talk to the cell phone, right? I think that, okay, the scope of the signal that enlivens the cell phone is pretty much limited to my phone. No, that signal pervades everywhere. I'm capturing it through my device. That's it. So the Atma pervades everywhere. My body, mind, and intellect reflects it. So it is all pervading Atma, Arupa Atma, Ashabda Atma, Asparshya Atma, Sukshma Atma, very difficult to know, right? That Atma. And finally, meaning the first point we said is Panchakosha Vilakshana Atma. So this is the second topic. So the third Valli has 3 topics. The first topic is Ratha Kalpana, which we studied last class. And the second topic is Atma Surupa. Right? What is the Surupa of the Atma? And the third topic is Jnana Sadhanani. Jnana Sadhanani means what exactly you need to know, do, or what is the skills you need to develop to learn knowledge, right? And the first thing the teacher tells is you need to sharpen your intellect, because the Atma needs, meaning you need to study this. You need Sukshma Bhukti. You need sharp intellect. And that is needed in understanding the scriptures. So without understanding the scriptures, you cannot understand the God properly, the world properly, yourself properly. So try to sharpen your intellect. And then the second thing it tells is study under a guru. So study under a guru. That is very much emphasized, because without the help of a guru, it is very difficult for you to navigate and see things clearly. And when this Jnana Sadhanani is described, the Upanishad gives a beautiful mantra, which at least one portion of that, let's study. It is said, Upanishad tells at this point of time, very famous mantra popularized by Swami Vivekananda. A lot of people think that this particular quote belongs to Swami Vivekananda. In fact, he quoted this from Katha Upanishad. The mantra is Uttishtata Jagrata Prapyavaran Nibodhita. This comes in the first chapter Valli 3. Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prapyavaran Nibodhata. Uttishtata, arise, Jagrata, awake, and Prapyavaran Nibodhata. Do not stop till the goal is reached. Whatever goal you pursue in your life, get up, be alert, and continuously pursue till the goal is reached. One cannot get anything better than this an advice. Without that self-effort, nothing is possible. Everything you need to put that self-effort. And the person who makes that self-effort, the path in front of may not be always pleasant, always easy. But once you have this will, and if you consistently put the effort, you can cross mountains, everything. So this mantra is a very famous mantra, a beautiful mantra. With this, we cover the first chapter of the Katha. So we can take 10 minutes and probably jump into the second chapter. So the first chapter is over. So now let's talk about the second chapter. Not a lot, but at least we can start reviewing it. Or if you want to have some Q&A, because I know that a lot of people had Q&A, so we cannot cover the second chapter completely. So probably we can pause here and try to clarify some questions, any questions, general questions, so we can use that way also.
Sure. Rajesh?
Yeah, let me, Anu can do the closing prayer, then we can do the Q&A.
Sure.
Anu, do you mind doing the closing prayers?
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.